It's payback time, KG.
On the next all-new episode of Rooster Fighter.
That seems like a dangerous gadget you've got there.
I made this thunder baton for the sole purpose of roasting your gizzard. I'll kill you!
Rooster Fighter. Next Saturday at midnight.
You're good at this.
Come back here, scumbag!
Only Toonami on Adult Swim. On the next all-new episode of Blue Lock.
We still have to address our little traitor issue.
Because of my 3 goals, it doesn't matter if Team Z loses. I still get to advance as our top scorer.
I'm definitely gonna kill you now! Jinpachi Ego here to address your questions.
Is this some kind of joke? This guy betrays us and you moved him up to number 1?
During the first selection, scoring is the only factor taken into consideration.
Blue Lock. Next Saturday at 1 a.m. Only Toonami on Adult Swim.
Going all out.
Momo and Okaroon are back for more.
Okaroon, kick its ass!
More tension.
Sorry! I tripped, I swear!
More danger.
Oh,
More darkness.
I shall kill all humans.
Get ready for a hell of a fight.
no one hits Momo!
Dawn to Dawn Season 2 premieres next Saturday at 12:30 a.m.
Yeah!
Only Toonami on Adult Swim.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our podcast, Toonami Therapy. We're recording on March 17th of 2026. I'm Michael.
Yeah, hello. I'm Tommy.
And as the name indicates, this is a podcast where we talk about anime we've been watching, some other things we've been watching, and yes, sometimes Toonami series. All right, so for this one, we've not exactly anime, but anime related. We've started watching the second season of the Netflix live action One Piece, but that'll come at the end. So that's our big intro. Oh yeah, and another show. I was thinking about that. I almost forgot to mention. Yes, also Rooster Fighter started on Toonami.
Yep.
So we'll be talking about that right away, in fact, because it's the first thing that aired on Toonami, and the way we just set it up is that we just discussed them in the order they aired that week. All right. And then for the non-Toonami shows, for anyone wondering, we just do it in the order we added it, which is why we've been starting with Yu Yu Hakusho for like more than a year now, because there's so many episodes of it. We're getting close to the end, and it will free it up. Something else will be the first one that we discuss on Toonami. I think, yeah. Will we finish with Gnosia before you? No, we were planning at some point in doubling up on Yu Yu Hakusho, so Gnosia might actually make it in first place for a few weeks. We'll see. In the meantime, we've got the new show, Rooster Fighter, Episode 1. Well, basically, there's a rooster, and his name is KG, and he goes around and fights monsters. And I mean, yeah, the title is simple, Rooster Fighter. He basically, it's not entirely clear yet, but it seems that sometimes humans can, when they get, overly angry about something, they can just turn into giant monsters, and then he's able to fight them with his powers, and he beats them. And that was basically the episode. I mean, there was some other stuff, but he came across some kids, he helped out this guy in clearing up the yawn. We had a flashback to his tragic backstory in which his sister was eaten, and for some reason we had some scenes of chickens going at it. I don't know if that was necessary, but that was there. And that was our episode.
Yeah. So my thoughts on this were that I didn't find it as funny as I had hoped to find it, but I also found it more interesting than I thought I was going to find it. It was, it wasn't bad. I mean, it was like, yeah, this doesn't make any sense, but it's, it had um at least a coherent storyline, even though we still don't really know how this rooster is able to talk or anything of the sort. And it seems like we're just supposed to suspend our disbelief over that. So, um, yeah. So overall, I think it's it's like Dandadan in quality on Toonami, which is at least an enjoyable half hour, even if it isn't all that groundbreaking.
What in regards to talking, I don't think he can talk. We hear him talk, but I think those are just his thoughts. I don't think he actually talks out loud.
Okay.
What was very weird for me in this show was I was trying to figure out, there were a bunch of times I laughed, and I'm thinking, okay, was that supposed to be funny? And usually when I say that, it's like I say, oh, it was an unintentional comedy, that's like a criticism, like usually a show like tried to make something serious, but it backfired and became a joke. But this show, obviously, some parts of it are supposed to be silly, but then there's other parts where I'm not sure. For example, his flashback to his like sister being eaten. And I'm thinking, this is like just so it's played completely straight. I'm thinking, is that the joke? Am I supposed to look at this and think, oh, that's just goofy and cliched? Or is it just goofy and cliched? I don't know if that's a joke. And there's also the part where when he's towards the end where they like need to clean up the thing and he's the lawn and he just holds this rake in his mouth. And when we saw that shot made me laugh. And I'm thinking, was that like a joke? Was that supposed to be funny? It made me laugh because it just looked so silly. But was it intentional, or was it just something that may happen to be a joke? I don't know. It's like the first time I think I felt this where I legitimately am just I laugh and I'm trying to figure out, was that a joke or did I just find it funny and it was just sort of accidental? It's weird. I wonder if this episode was inspired by, you didn't see it because you only saw the last season, but the episode of Samurai Jack where Jack gets turned into a chicken and has to like fight in this sort of arena. So I don't know. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. But this was for the most part a decent opening episode. Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. Yeah. I agree. It wasn't bad.
Okay. So after that, we'll move on to Primal episode. I wrote down episode 30. Is that right? That doesn't seem right. Isn't this because each season was 30 episodes, right? So, okay, this was actually episode 29. Dang, did I increase everything by accident? I don't know. We'll see. Episode 29. Basically, Spear is still fighting in all of those, fights, although he also seems to be becoming, well, he was undead. Now he's becoming undead by kind of coming back to life. It's implied that it's because of like that like liquid thing he's drinking there. Anyway, he's basically does all that. Then he takes the stuff that that he wins in the fights because he wants to make something to, bring to the to who he knows is his daughter. But then when he gets there, he finds out, oh, they left because they were, I think, going to try to find him. Mira, Fang, her kids, and Mira, for some reason, bringing along her own daughter. Doesn't seem to make sense to be doing that in a dangerous situation. But whatever, she did. But then they get attacked by a monster leopard ghost thing. And yeah, that's the episode. I'm going to guess Spear is going to find them and save them and maybe he'll somehow come back to life. One of his hands is still just skeletal, as even if the rest of his body has actually mostly gone back to normal. So
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say I just don't find Spears fighting all these random guys in this sort of arena thing that interesting, but at least they had at least it felt like there's a little more of a point to it here. I did still I don't know. I just thought the stuff where Fang's kids are just kind of fighting each other over who the baby gets to ride. That was cute. I really like Fang's kids. They have been fun characters, and I found them funny. So I don't know. I thought it was decent.
Yeah, I just don't see the point in conflict if the guy survives everything, It doesn't matter how much he gets beaten up, he still survives. So for me, it's well, now I don't really care if someone beats the snot out of him because I know he's not going to die. So, yeah.
I think we were
Overall, just an average episode.
Yeah, I think we were supposed to get the implication that he was starting because of the whole coming back to life kind of thing. I think we were supposed to get the implication he doesn't have that basic invulnerability anymore. It seemed like he was actually experiencing pain, but it wasn't entirely clear to me. But I think that's what we were supposed to be taking from it. Okay. All right. Well, we'll see in the end whether Spear makes it, because we actually don't know for sure. We know Mira, Fang, and Fang's kids are going to be alive, because at that final bit at the end of the second season, we saw them in the future when her daughter's grown up. Although, I guess the kid could die and Mira could just have another kid later on for all we know. But we didn't see. So Spear might die, or it might, for all we know, it'll just show us that scene, and then the camera will just point over and say, "Oh, Spear was actually there with them." Okay. We'll move on then to Blue Lock episode 6.
Okay, so in this episode, we get one of the most convoluted scandals in the history of anime. And the one, now, unfortunately, I don't remember the guy's name. So do you remember his name, the guy who scored the hat trick in this game?
Wasn't it Kuon or Kuz? Let me check. Feel like it was something like that. I feel Kuon, that was it.
Okay, so Kuon scores 3 goals really quickly in the first half. Everyone's excited. Everyone's cheering this up. Then the second half, he starts passing the ball to the other team, which, by the way, is something I once did in a gym class. I got mad because I got traded from the team I liked to the team I didn't like. So I purposely, we were playing hockey on scooters or something. It was some bizarre game. And I passed the ball to the wrong team and helped them score. And and people weren't too happy about that. But he's passing the ball to the other team, so then they come back and take the lead. And then it's why are you doing this? It's well, all I have to do is be the top scorer. So I, arranged for this game to be fixed so that I get the goals and then I help the other team score. Now, why this doesn't make any sense is because if his team wins, then it doesn't matter how many goals he scored anyway. If he got his team up 3-0, he's better 3-0. He's better off just continuing to help his team win instead of throwing the rest of the game. So this doesn't make much sense, but that's what he does. And Ego decides he's going to allow it, and he's going to let them play it out. And of course, that will mean that they have even more obstacles to overcome because they have to overcome their own teammates. So that's where it's at, and that's Blue Lock for this week.
Yeah, when I think a while ago I rewatched the first season of Blue Lock. I think this was a year or two ago, and after I did, I talked kind of briefly about it. But then I had a lot of comments, but I kind of cut it down because I started realizing, people don't want to hear this lengthy thing about me going in here. So rewatching this allows me to actually do some of that.
Yeah, go ahead.
And this was one thing that just you kind of covered it, how it doesn't make sense. His team is up 3 points. There's no real reason for him to help the other team at this point. Because what if he decides, okay, I'm going to because if his team wins, then basically I think they should win. They should make it, from what I remember, because based on what we know, I don't know how much of spoilers I should be giving, even though we went through all of this, but we do know that, like, I think 2 wins gets you there. So there's that. But basically, there's not any, I guess I'll just put it this way. What is the benefit to him to help the other team by deliberately messing up and then even taking his side? Especially because I didn't even notice this part. You pointed it out to me. There's a part where he, to help the other team, deliberately messes up with a what's it called when you hit the ball with because he could have made a goal, but he intentionally messed it up. But from his perspective, against at least the self-serving one, as you pointed out, if he had gotten the goal, that would have been 1 more point to him. It would have made it even more guaranteed he would make it. So why are we keeping up with this stuff? Now, you couldn't say, well, it's the honest thing to do. But the guy's not being honest. That's why he did all this. And why does he suddenly have this honesty? And there's one other thing that needs to be remembered. Why did the other team agree to this? Because the whole thing was, we will let you score 3 points and then you will help us. What guarantee do they have that the guy won't just say, thanks for the goals, guys. I'm not going to help you now. Why would I bother with that? Like, I don't know. Did he and the other guy, give each other their pet goldfishes as hostages or something? I have no idea why the other team would agree to such a thing. If it was like more of a give and take, like they would say, okay, we will give you a free goal and you will give us a free goal and that sort of thing, then that could have made a little more sense. Although it still would be a question of, well, why are we setting it up like that? I don't know. It just does. The actions just don't make much sense from a self-serving perspective, which is his perspective. That's why he's doing all this. It doesn't make sense for him to deliberately, mess up stuff. The only thing I can think of as to why he would be hurt going against his other team is he's thinking, okay, I've got the most goals, but what if other members of my team get that many goals and we still lose this? And I guess then that might be a reason to try to stop the other guys from scoring goals so you keep it. But that still doesn't explain why he deliberately doesn't get a goal himself. His other mess-ups made some sense, but not that one, which, as you pointed out to me, I didn't even notice that. You did, so credit to you. And once again, like I said, why does the other team go? Why do they think this is a good idea? What guarantee do they have that the guy who's cheating, who's betraying his own team, won't betray them as soon as he gets the 3 goals? It's just, none of this makes sense to me.
Yeah. This was a very confusing plan, although it was entertaining.
It was
entertaining.
I'll be fair.
It just didn't make too much sense. No.
Yeah, I just wish there had been some explanation as to why why the other team was sure that he would hold to his side of the bargain, because it just didn't, it just doesn't really make that much sense. Now, it was entertaining to watch, and and such, but it's just a very weird, like, decisions by the characters. Okay. So, let's see. After that, we move on to Tokyo Avengers, episode 6. So, we get a flashback to I can't remember how his name was pronounced. I see it written here. Is it Draken? I can't remember. It's spelled Draken. So I think it's Draken. Draken. I'm going to say Draken. I keep thinking the name keeps making me think of Dr. Draken from Kim Possible. So anyway, basically it's about how he and Mikey became friends, and we get to flashback there, and then we cut to the present, and Takemichi is just in the present. We didn't see him return to the present. He didn't explain what his motivation. He's just back in the present somehow.
Yeah.
I thought I had missed something, and I checked, and I'm like, no, I don't see anything. He's just back in the present. Anyway, so they find some other things about, so they're still researching, and they find out, okay, it's a fight between Mobius, another gang, and these guys that cause all the bad stuff that happens. And so we need to stop that. So he goes back in time again and is saying, hey guys, please don't fight with them. It will be bad. And they're saying, well, why? And he says, just don't, rather than, mentioning future stuff. He could have said, I'm from the future, and maybe they'd think it's dumb, but it might help. Honestly, I know I keep bringing this up, but how he proves he's from the future? Give them the winning lottery numbers. Just say, here's the winning lottery numbers. Now you'll know I'm from the future. Now, I guess to be fair, giving that to someone else could cause all sorts of more problems, because they'd probably be like, hey, give us more winning lottery numbers. So maybe not that, but I just kind of wonder if that might have help things. But I guess it maybe doesn't matter, because the other gang decides to show up with a ton of people to fight. So I guess it looks like they're just going to have to go into it regardless. And so, yeah, that was the episode. And this is like one of the probably the weirdest things to take issue with, but I need to discuss it. So in the flashback of Draken, he gets a tattoo, and I think it said was in 5th or 6th grade elementary school, something like that. And he goes to a tattoo person who puts it on. Now, how does that work? Because I looked it up. You can't get a tattoo legally at that age in Japan. And you can't, and I don't think you say, well, this took place in the past. In the past, the requirements were you had to be 21. They lowered it to 18. So how is he getting a tattoo? Now, you could just say, oh, well, maybe it's an illegal tattoo. But that brings up more questions, because it looked like a legitimate tattoo place. And even if he was doing it under the table or whatever, you have this kid going around with a tattoo. Of course, people are going to ask questions to try to find who did it illegally. So why does the guy do it? None of this is mentioned. Now, maybe the internet has lied to me about the status of the, tattoo laws in Japan, but it looked correct to me. So if that's the case, it just brings me all these questions of how we got a tattoo at that age with apparently no problems. Terrible plot on point. It doesn't make sense. That ruins the whole episode. Thumbs down.
Yeah, this wasn't a very good episode. I hate that now they're just switching back and forth between present time and previous time without showing us how or why they're doing that. It just makes it very confusing. And of course he goes and gets beat up again, which I predicted whenever I saw it. I'm like, okay, he's going to go get beat up. Sure enough, he did. And this entire storyline isn't even all that interesting. it's all this gangs and mafia and all this kind of stuff, organized crime, and it's honestly not that interesting. I think there's like so many things you could do with a time travel situation, and this show has chosen like the most boring way to handle it, and it's not very good.
My problem is I'm having trouble keeping track of who all like the gangs and are and their relationships and all of this stuff. Now, maybe I'm not necessarily supposed to be remembering everything perfectly, and maybe that's on me for not paying adequate attention or whatever. But it is just kind of weird to have all this stuff, and it is kind of confusing. I don't like my joke aside. I didn't really necessarily dislike the episode. I just thought it was kind of confusing and yeah, I wonder if our main character will get beaten up in the next episode too, because there's been like one episode where he hasn't gotten beaten up so far.
Yep.
So, yeah, I guess we'll see how things go, but unfortunately, Tokyo Revengers has for a while kind of been the weak link of Toonami, and so I hope that it gets stronger. How's the phrase go? A chain is only as strong as its weakest link. So yeah, you got Blue Lock, Toonami. That's good, but you need to improve Tokyo Revengers so that the chain becomes stronger because it's only as strong as its weakest link. And I know you can't exactly necessarily make it better suddenly because of the fact it was already made before you got it, but this is where the metaphor is starting to fall apart, I suppose.
Yep.
Okay. So we move on. One Piece episode 768. All right. So we find out that Momonosuke is actually, well, he's not Kinemon's son like we thought he was. And the problem with me having read later stuff in the manga, I'm thinking, oh, we didn't know that. I thought that had already been revealed. I guess we did think he was his son at this point. So he finds out that his real father is the guy who was like in charge of some big thing in Wano. I can't remember like the specifics. Was his father still in power at this point, or did he lose it? I don't know. The point is he's actually a really important guy, and that makes all the other guys kind of esteem him highly, which is why he's able to make Duke Dogstorm and Cat Viper stop fighting each other by just saying, stop fighting. And they're like, okay. But doesn't get him any more respect from Luffy, who, they still get into a brawl because they get angry at each other. Anyway, then remember there was that ninja that the bad guys were looking for, and then and who was being kept hidden. Well, they all decided to go there, and while some of them are like Luffy are super excited about seeing a ninja, they just find a guy who's just been chained up. So I think they chained him up to prevent him from going and giving himself up to Jack to try to help all the people. That was the reason for that, and that's basically the episode.
Yeah. I guess it was a One Piece episode. There really wasn't that much about Straw Hat Crew, there was a lot of stuff about these other guys. So yeah, One Piece. Yeah, that's all.
Yep. Another time where we didn't even get a full chapter out of it.
Nope.
Fun thing is I was kind of curious. I was trying to see how well maybe I'll talk about it when we get to the One Piece live action. So we'll put that on table that for now. Be sure to remind me in case I forget. Okay. So we've got Yu Yu Hakusho episode 99. So we get 99 episodes into the series. So should I make a 99 problems or a 99 red balloons joke here? Which would be more appropriate? I know. I'll be
99
unpredictable.
red balloons go by.
Yeah, well, I think the answer is simple. I won't do either. Anyway, so on this episode, we do actually find out Hiei's full backstory, which was basically he and Ukina, they were born twins to this person who lived on this, basically they were on this sort of floating island-like thing in Demon World, and apparently they only gave birth, they conceived without, needing men, but they only gave birth to girls, but Hiei got born, and that proved that one of them had, left the place and done it with an actual guy. So they just toss him off the thing. And Hiei wanted to go back and get revenge. Anyway, but for now, he's being trained by Mukuro. By training, it means just, Mukuro sending what was it, 500 demons to fight Hiei, who he kills. And I'm thinking, that seems like a waste of troops. And even if you think the troops, those specific ones, aren't important, it seems like that would be kind of bad for general morale. Yeah, I just sent 500 of you guys off to be killed by this guy for a test. Anyway, Hiei gets through that. Mukuro basically mentioned, oh yeah, by the way, you know how I've got all my head in, hidden in this thing? Well, if you win this next fight, I'll show you what I look like. And then says, I should have checked the Japanese to see if this was what was said, but it's not like I am your father or anything. Then Hiei fights the guy who put the Jagan Eye in him to begin with, and that's basically the episode. Most of it was honestly just going on about Hiei's backstory. And then the two of them are talking about their past stuff so much. It's just funny when Mukuro just says, enough reminiscing.
Yeah, this episode was really boring in my opinion. I didn't really care all that much about Hiei, so I was just kind of bored watching it. So yeah. I mean, I think that most of the fun and most of the stuff that makes Yu Yu Hakusho good is either Yusuke or Kuwabara. So whenever you got neither of them, then it's kind of dull. So
I found it more interesting, but definitely we did not need to spend quite this amount of time on Hiei's backstory. You could have done all the important stuff in probably about half the time. Okay. So, after that, we've got Gnosia, episode 16. Also known as, I'm glad you're the one who has to explain what happened in this episode rather than me.
Oh my. I don't know what I watched, but okay, so Yuri wakes up and now there's no more Gnosia, and Yuri is trying to figure out why, and then they go on another mission, and Yuri's trying to figure out all this stuff about all these people and can't get anything more on the Silver Key because of no Gnosia. And by the end of the episode, I was so confused. I didn't know what to say here. So, do you have any better explanations than I do?
Okay, well, the big thing we got, I think, because so much of this was confusing. The most coherent things I got was this. The Yuri, as we know it, is not like the original Yuri. They call Yuri a bug. And the real Yuri was the first victim of the Gnosia in all the loops. And then the Yuri we know just kind of took their place and didn't know it, which is why Yuri has amnesia, because they don't have any memories. So like because it wasn't them. And then whenever Yuri meets the other Yuri, it seems reality collapses, it seems, and things get weird. And that's basically the explanation I got. Like Yuri's supposed to be an anomaly. They call it a bug, which is a little surprising to have it now because I know that was actually a role in the game. You know how, like, there's engineer, anti-cosmic follower, doctor, guardian angel. Apparently that was one of them, which you could be the bug or someone else could be the bug, in which case you have to actually not have them get to the end. If you're the bug, you just need to get to the end, and then the universe goes kaput at the end of that loop because you just do that. And then in the other, if it's someone else, you need to stop them from making it to the end, on top of, making sure the Gnosia don't take over the ship. I don't know how far in that is introduced, though. It might have been kind of later into the game. But the impression I got from that, and I'm sorry, everyone, if I'm just spoiling things that we're not supposed to know yet, but was that was just like in certain loops. This made it sound like that was always the case for Yuri, but I don't know. I guess we'll get some more explanations later on, hopefully, because this episode was just very confusing. Outside of the stuff that I explained, it was like I was watching the last few episodes of Neon Genesis Evangelion again, except no one was around to congratulate me at the end for making it through it.
Yeah, very confusing episode this week. I know that the show tries to be different each week, so I appreciate that. We had the episode where Yuri was a girl. We had the episode where Yuri found out everything about SQ. But this episode really missed the mark. So, and it was so much of that info dump stuff. They just poured down all this info on us like a big anvil. And I would have rather found this out in a slower fashion than this. So that's Gnosia for this week.
Yeah. Although I will say one thing that's so the series it finished. It aired its last episode. We're still a bit behind, so we'll get there. I was curious and I looked at my anime list, and after it ended, it took a bit of a jump up. It was previously at about like 7.5. Now it's at 7.87. So that at least indicates it had a decent ending. That's when you sometimes see big swings up and down when something ends. So that at least puts it as one of the higher rated anime for its season. So that's something good to see. All right, but as for this episode, not so good. Okay. So, all right, and then we go into Spy Family episode 48. All right, so basically in this episode, what happens is Yor is still, while she seems to have gotten over the idea she's supposed to kill Lloyd to prevent people from thinking she's a murderer, she still thinks that it's normal to have complaints, so she doesn't have any, so she's trying to come up with things to complain about so that she, in her mind, seems normal. Which, of course, Lloyd just gets confused by all of it and thinks that she has complaints. Anyway, but that all gets interrupted with basically this stuff where, how did it go? There's someone who was someone was a mole within Weiss. And basically, Twilight and the others have to work to try to stop that guy from giving all their information to the enemies. And then Yuri gets drafting, well, he is the enemy, to try to make sure the guy does get all that information. So we get all of that. The big thing is that Lloyd dresses up as the guy to try to pretend to be him, but then they know it's him, and that's kind of the cliffhanger. I guess we find out next. And then there's just some goofy stuff with Anya and Becky at the zoo.
Yeah, although that goofy stuff with Anya in the zoo turned into one of those lectures. It was like, here's the most evil living being on Earth. It's the human. I'm like, okay, yeah. I've heard this so many times that, yeah.
I don't know if
Go ahead.
I don't know if they were like trying to do any lecture. I think it was just supposed to be goofy. Was all.
Yeah, well, my favorite part of the episode was Yor still being a little drunk and still trying to do this crazy stuff, like trying to have gripes, like, oh, that's a gripe. And yeah, that was some really good stuff. So, yeah, overall, this episode was pretty good. I still feel like Lloyd is not really getting all that good of an edit this season, and he deserves a better edit than he's getting. So, in Survivor terms, so yeah, so I would like to see more from Lloyd because I know he can be better than this, and I don't think it was a great episode, but it was still pretty good.
Although one thing, to go on a bit of a tangent, just trying to find things to complain about reminds me of this joke from Phineas and Ferb. Did you ever watch Phineas and Ferb?
No, I did not.
Okay. Well, there's the Christmas episode. One of the jokes is that the sort of antagonist of the series, Doofenshmirtz, he's annoyed because he doesn't have a reason to hate Christmas, because he wants to have some excuse to cause havoc because he's the bad guy, and he just declares this morning, all I want for Christmas is a reason to hate Christmas. So that was a kind of amusing thing. Just reminded me a little of that. Okay, so moving on. My Hero Academia, Vigilantes, episode 23. So, once again, it's the big farewell party for Captain Celebrity. So most of the episode is really just that big celebration of that. And then the bad guys decide to attack, as we kind of expected they would. So Celebrity is able to, fight off some of the guys and help prevent the dome from falling, which got damaged from the attack. But I guess he's just kind of stuck there. And then the bad guys are going to keep attacking. And that was basically the episode. I feel like I'm a bad person for this, but when the actual attack happened and bad things are occurring, I'm thinking, oh, good, something is actually happening now.
Yeah, this was a very boring episode, and until the attack, and I still don't know what's going on this season. What is Koichi's purpose in this season? What is he even there for? He just shows up saying, he just shows up down at the local hero's place and just hangs out a little bit, but he doesn't really do anything. And we know that Pop Step doesn't do anything. So it just feels like this season has been turned into a prequel for My Hero Academia. Like I know that's what it is, but last season, the first season, they actually focused on their main characters and help get those characters so we would be able to care about them. They built them up. Now it's just like, oh, they don't really do anything. They just kind of hang out. So yeah, this season has gone downhill. As soon as the big flashback happened, it's gone downhill ever since.
Yeah, this season has done a lot of not really focusing that much on the main characters. We had that flashback. Now all this stuff is about Captain Celebrity, who is a kind of funny character, I guess. But I think I would have appreciated this more if we hadn't spent so much of it on Eraserhead's not that important flashback. That's the problem. So, yeah, the preview also made it look like we were getting flashbacks for Captain Celebrity, so maybe he'll die.
Yeah.
We got a flashback for Hiei and he hasn't died, but that maybe things will be different here. We'll see. Okay. That's My Hero Academia Vigilantes. Not much else to say. We move on to Solo Leveling, episode 15. All right, so turns out Jinu's father has been trapped in one of the other gates for 10 years and managed to make it out. I can't remember I know his father wasn't around, but I can't remember what it actually gave as the explanation before this about what happened to him. Did he just go missing, or did they think he was dead? I don't know, but that's the thing we got here. So he's out, and is kind of telling people, hey, there's going to be a really big threat that's coming up. But we don't really get that much there, other than the fact that, yeah, his father manages to get away. Then, meanwhile, Jinu's basically just going. Remember how he wanted to go into that special dungeon because he wanted to get the stuff to make the thing to cure his mother? Well, he does more of that, and he just beats a bunch of monsters because that's a mission. And yeah, that's basically the episode, more or less.
Yep. It wasn't terrible. This felt like a little less interesting than it's been lately, so I'm disappointed, but not terrible. So yeah, I'm just hoping that I don't know. I feel like this is like turning too much into the way the Eminence and Shadow second season became just all about, Sid getting more powerful. And that's kind of what this has done. It's like, okay, the main character, he keeps on getting more powerful, but that really isn't all that interesting. So, I would like there to be some character who could play as his foil and make sure that he doesn't just become this unstoppable, overpowered, being who has no one really to challenge him.
Yeah, unfortunately, him being kind of the strongest guy in the room is kind of it's like a very deliberate thing about this series. It really is a power fantasy. One of the reasons it got popular is just it's kind of, I guess, a little better at being that in a bunch of series. It's just like it goes straight forward. This isn't a series that does things that so many of those other, like, it doesn't have a bunch of sort of more stuff that you usually see in anime. Like, there's not like a ton of fan service and stuff here. He doesn't have a harem. It's just about, okay, he's a weak guy and he gets really strong. It I guess you could say it understands the assignment better. Yeah. Although I will say, remember when last episode I said he spent it basically aura farming? Now, this was the episode where he went all out in aura farming, as the kids say. Yeah. Or at least as I think the term means. I hope I'm not misusing it. Okay. All right. That's it for that. So before we move on to One Piece, how about we just give our favorites for the Toonami and non-Toonami to make sure we don't forget.
Yep. My favorite Toonami, despite the nonsensicalness of the situation, I still went with Blue Lock. And non-Toonami, I went with Spy Family. And Kukruska is my best girl of the week.
Did she even do much in this episode of Gnosia?
Well, she never talks, so
okay.
Yeah, she did some sign language to Yuri in this episode. So yeah, there was some sign language going on between her and Yuri. So
okay. So for me, Toonami is a tricky one because it seems each episode had had some stuff that I liked and some stuff I disliked. So it's a little bit of a tricky one for me to choose my favorite. Even though I spent so much time complaining about it, I think I'm actually still going to give it to Blue Lock. So that's weird. Well, it's not the greatest week for Toonami, honestly. It seemed like each series had some stuff I really liked, and there's this one thing that brings it down. And I guess the stuff I liked for Blue Lock managed to survive the being brought down the most. For non-Toonami, I'll also agree on Spy Family. All right, so I guess we'll then conclude with One Piece, Netflix One Piece live action. I don't know what I should be saying. I don't want to just say One Piece, but I can't is it called Netflix One Piece? I'll just call it live action One Piece. Beginning of season 1, episode 9. I'm going to try to be a bit curt in describing this. So basically in this episode, was it the end in the beginning or was it the beginning and the end? Okay, the beginning and the end. So they make it to Logue Town, the place where Garp was executed. Luffy, because they're just trying to pick up on supplies and stuff, Luffy ends up getting captured by Buggy and Alvida, who and Buggy's gonna try to execute him, but there's a big lightning, so Luffy is able to get away. He does end up fighting against Smoker, who's like one of the guys in the Navy, and he can't beat him, but then he gets rescued because this other guy, the credits call him Dragon, so I don't think it's a spoiler to just say that's his name. He stops Smoker, so Luffy gets off, and then they go off to have more adventures, presumably. That's my short description of it, I guess. There's a whole bunch of stuff I skipped over, but yeah. Ooh.
Hey,
so let's see. I have a bunch of notes on things. Do you want me to talk some stuff, or do you want to talk?
Yeah, you
some
go
stuff?
ahead. You go ahead. You got more to talk about than me. So.
Oh, one thing I almost forgot to mention. Yeah, Bartolomeo shows up. He meets and interacts with Luffy a bit. If you don't remember him, I think you remember him, but in case any audience members don't, he was an important character during the Dressrosa arc that we finished with last year on Toonami. He was basically, his backstory we found out was that he happened to see Luffy, when he was about to be killed, and how he was just laughing at the time, and he got inspired by that. So he decided, okay, we'll just have him in here because, that is when he saw Luffy. So even though he won't show up again until like around, let me think, until like maybe season 10 or something. It's kind of a cute little thing to have him here. So we got that. Yeah, so let's see. Do you remember, I know you saw Punk Hazard. Do you remember Smoker and Tashigi? This was like their introduction, but I don't remember if you know if they made much of an impression to you in Punk Hazard because of how long that thing dragged out.
Yeah, that's what you said. Too long.
Okay. Yeah. Man, I feel like I have all these. Oh yeah, here. Okay. Oh, I almost forgot to mention the thing that I set up before. So I was thinking, man, modern One Piece, it just pads things out. There's so few chapters per episode. I was kind of curious. I was thinking, okay, in this episode, how much of the original anime did we cover? So I was looking to see, how many episodes there were. And this covers basically 6. Except one of those episodes was complete filler. One of them was almost complete filler. And then, like, if you look at the number, how much of each chapter those episodes contained, it's like there's a ton of padding and stuff there. Like we're talking like not getting full chapters out of it. So I think back then, though, they didn't just do all like, as much in the way of just reaction shots to pad things out. They just like, had the characters do a bunch of random stuff, which I guess when they make it to Lowtown is a decent enough spot to do them. But yeah, so I'm not sure what point I was trying to make with that, but I made it.
Yeah, go through your notes. Tell us what you thought of this episode.
Okay, there's a number of things. I talked about that. So let's see. Oh, and by the way, the anime then followed this up with a filler arc. For all the criticisms that the 4Kids One Piece dub got, some of them I think overstated, some of them very valid. The criticisms, I mean. One thing they did do that was nice was they did generally cut out the filler.
Yeah.
All right. So let's see. Some of these things. The one thing that I was trying to remember was there's like Buggy does quite a bit of, using some naughty words in this episode. And I don't think he did that in the first season, or at least I don't remember. Did they increase it? I actually talked to someone recently who like mentioned, oh yeah, I was starting to watch the second season. I only saw the first episode though. And I mentioned, was that just me or was that the case? He's like, no, I think that was the case also. So it does seem like they kind of upped it a bit here. Did you think it was? I'm just trying to figure out if it was just my thoughts on that.
About what? What was that?
Like was like the sort of increasing language that Buggy in this? He like says the S word a number of times. I don't remember him doing that in the first season.
I wouldn't remember. So yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's see some other things. This is the thing. I look at this big thing of notes. I'm like, yeah, some of this stuff I should like probably actually wait to bring up for future episodes. But I will say I'm kind of appreciative of the fact we did not see Kobe and Helmeppo here because their plot in the previous season was kind of boring. And I thought sort of brought it down a bit. I don't know if maybe we'll see them again or if we just won't see them until they actually show up they were originally showing up in the anime, which I think would be around like season, assuming it keeps going this at the current rate, I think that would be in season 6 or 5. Let me think. This is season 2. Alabasta will be season 3. Skypiea would be 4. Will we do Water 7 and Marine in 5? So yeah, I think that would be around like 5 or 6.
Okay. Whenever we get to where I was at, you mean?
When you first started watching the anime, that was midway through the water. No, not Water 7. No, not Impel Down. Was it Water 7? What was its name? Enos Lobby. That was it. Water 7, then Enos Lobby. Some consider them the same arc. That was the one where you first started, where they were trying to rescue Robin and stuff. That would be around, again, if they continue at this current rate, that would probably be in season 6.
Okay.
Season 5 or 6. It depends on the rate they go. Who knows? Maybe they might keep going. It's a popular series. Yeah, but for the most part, this episode, and this is maybe something I should have led with, from what I remember, this was, after cutting out the filler, a fairly, faithful adaptation in a lot of ways. Like they hit a bunch of the important notes, like the thing where Zoro is trying to buy the sword, but the guy, and that like whole scene is pretty similar to how it played out originally, including that part where, he's told that it's an unlucky sword. So he said, well, let's see if it's my will or the sword unluck is stronger. So he just tosses it up in the air, holds out his hand, and then when it doesn't hit him, he goes, I'll take it. So that was in the original. That was nice. The part where, Smoker, when the kid accidentally pours, like accidentally hits him with his pants with some ice cream, he just gives her some money to buy new ice cream and goes on. That's an important character moment. Glad they kept that. All the other stuff, Luffy almost getting killed by Buggy, the lightning strike saving him, Dragon saving him from Smoker. It's never been made clear whether the lightning strike was just total dumb luck or whether maybe Dragon had something to do with it. We don't actually, I was looking, I just assumed it was him, but we don't have it confirmed. We don't know exactly what his powers are. I'm kind of going around who Dragon is. It's actually been mentioned several times, I think, in the Alabasta arc, but because you didn't know who he was, you probably just kind of went over it when we went through it. Yeah, that's like the main stuff I think I had. Did you have any comments you wanted to make?
I didn't really have any comments. I felt like this felt more like actual One Piece than even the first season was. I thought it was, it had the silliness and it had Luffy acting Luffy. So yeah, I thought this was a pretty good, now obviously I never saw the first thing, and obviously, I'm not sure if future episodes are going to add in stuff that wasn't in the original or whatever. But for right now, this episode I thought felt like One Piece. So I have to say it was pretty good.
Yeah. Okay, one more thing. The one thing they did add was that opening bit where the Baroque work members, they were like going and to that Marine base, and then they attacked the people there. And I'm just gonna even though technically we don't know that's Robin, we know it's Robin, so I'm just gonna call her Robin. At this point, technically we just know I think she's only called Miss All Sunday. You don't find out her name until later. Here's like the weird thing I found in that, which is the fact that, they go in and then they attack all the Marines, and it's not entirely clear. I was trying to figure out, did she just kill all of them or not? Because she's using her powers to make their guns shoot at them. And one guy looked like he got stabbed in the throat. One guy looked like he had his head snapped. But there's not any blood or anything. And while that might just be, you don't want to make it too violent for the kids, I'm left confused. Am I supposed to think that they were dead or not? Because if she just killed all of them just like that, I'm thinking that is a questionable way to introduce a character who becomes a good guy later on. Because that was original to the anime. She first shows up in the original. Sorry, that was original to the live action. She first shows up a little later on in the original. So I was just kind of confused by that. Did she just kill all these guys? if so, it just seemed like a little excessive again for the character who becomes a good guy. So I didn't know what to think about that. Maybe you can just say, oh, well, they didn't die. You didn't see blood. You just got subdued somehow. Or it was just a confusing scene, and I was not sure how I was supposed to actually take the stuff to Marines there.
Yeah.
All right. That's basically all of them. Okay.
Want to rank it from 1 to 10?
Okay, yeah, I think I'm actually, that was your idea. I think I'm going to try to actually keep a ranking of the episodes. So, number for myself. So this will be easy. My number one pick for all of these will be episode 1. It was the best, the worst, and the most mid episode of this season so far.
Yeah, I give it an 8. Oh, sorry.
Oh, okay. I think it was a little tricky for me to decide. I think ultimately I'm going to give it. I liked it, but there were a few things I was a little about. I think I'll give it. Maybe this will make me think like I need to do better. Maybe looking back, I'll want to change this in retrospect, but I think I'll give it a 7.
Yeah, I give it an 8 out of 10. I thought it was very entertaining and felt very much like One Piece. So I have to give it its props. It was a good first episode.
Mm-hmm. One final comment, not about this episode. Unfortunately, I inadvertently spoiled myself on some things that happened later because I was kind of curious. So I watched I wanted to see a few reviews of this to see what people thought. And of course, one of them shows them something like, that looks interesting. I want to see how the maid does that. So I watched like, okay, that's interesting. On the downside, now I totally know that it does this. It's especially the next episode. There's some stuff I'm like, oh, that looks really cool. I kind of wish that I didn't know about this beforehand. Not like a spoiler plot twist, just because I kind of know the general stuff is, but to say it vaguely enough that it won't be a spoiler unless you've already seen it. I totally found out about how Bartolomeo here shows up, even though he originally showed up way later in the source material. Next episode's it does something else like that. A character who originally showed up later on gets an appearance there. And I'm like, oh, might have been kind of cool to just see, oh, wow, it's that character, rather than knowing it ahead of time.
It's that guy.
Oh, how many listeners will even know what that joke is referencing? Okay, it's an old thing from Parasite. I think that was even before this podcast. So, okay, so that was me rambling on a whole bunch about One Piece. I'll try to do less rambling and more coherent discussions next time. There were just so many thoughts I had. Oh, one final thing that actually is interesting. I found out apparently the studio that made this is now like trying to develop a live action adaptation of Samurai Champloo.
Ooh.
That's
very interesting because that could go either way. It could be another Cowboy Bebop and be horrible, or it could be more like this and be good. So, yeah.
The crazy thing, I found out the same studio made both the One Piece and Cowboy Bebop live action for Netflix. So which way will it go? I don't know. They did the thing I saw about it did mention, yes, the original creator of Samurai Champloo, same guy who made Bebop actually, is like going to be like involved in this because he did not have much to do with Bebop. And I'm thinking, okay, that seems like it would be good, but unfortunately. He also, the last show that creator, what was his name? Was it? I keep thinking I don't want to say wrong because I know he's got a similar name to another creator. Okay, Shinichiro Watanabe. Okay, that was it. I keep getting mixed up with Shinichi Watanabe, another guy who made anime. So, as I was saying. So, the original creator being involved is good, but then I remember that the last show that Shinichiro Watanabe made was Lazarus. So I'm thinking, I hope he still has a spark in him because that show was a bit of a letdown.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, obviously, stuff gets announced and sometimes they get canceled before they came out. But that could be definitely interesting if they do that. Hopefully it'll be a lot more like One Piece and a lot less like what I hear about the Cowboy Bebop live action series.
Yeah.
All right. So once again, this was just me talking about a bunch of stuff, and we'll try to do it better. Well, I think that's it. Did you have anything else to say about anything?
I'm slowly starting to get back into the Sailor Moon thing. I watched one episode this past week. I'll in the weeks to come, I'll start watching that more regularly again, so I can try to get through this series by the end of the year. I'm kind of behind the 8 ball after I took time off for the Olympics, but and I'm gonna have to take some more time off now because of some other sports events. But I will continue with that eventually, so I'll let you know how it's going. The one episode I did see was very forgettable, so nothing really much to say about it. So, yep, that's all I got.
All right. So next week we'll just be back with everything normal. Same slate of shows. Oh, we will get the end of Primal, another episode of One Piece live action, and everything else. And we'll try to do better that time.
Bye.
What is this place?
Come on, want to see what's on the other side.
Chihiro didn't like adventures.
Wait for me!
But on her way to becoming the new girl in a new town, a wrong turn trapped her in the spirit world with no hope of escape. And unless she can remember her name, she'll be a slave forever.
Let's go!
Now, she must learn the rules of a dangerous new reality, save her parents, and find her way back home.
What would you like?
I would like to leave, sir.
Along the way, she may just discover what it means to be human.
What's going on?
It's called love.
Toonami is proud to present the Academy Award-winning film Spirited Away, Saturday night at 7:30. Part of a month of Miyazaki. Don't sleep on it.
Is this a dream? Is this a dream?
Only Toonami on Cartoon Network.